By Game Theory, all things
no
not
one.
blocked.
No game.
Literally no one.
Oh, is this a meme?
There's nobody.
And I've ran into these freaking things.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Enderman's gone.
But I don't know the deep lore.
I told you literally yesterday.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game
Enderman was my
Theory.
bro.
Call it nostalgia, call it a return to a more innocent time, call it a desire to trend right off of PewDiePie's success playing the game that
he's
just
having a lot of
overthrew
success.
Fortnite. Rest in peace, Jurgen. But I have been digging through a lot of Minecraft lore lately. Oh, and you absolutely heard that right. According to Google Trends, Minecraft is now on top of Fortnite, both in terms of web search and here on YouTube. It's like the Grover Cleveland of video games. And by that I mean a game that was king, gave up its crown to someone else, but then snatched it back, just like old Grover did when he was elected president. History's only double president, for that matter. Honestly, it's like the only thing Grover
at least the way I
Cleveland
think,
for. Heck, this
very friendly
fascinating
with
facts
each
article
other.
on him couldn't even come up with
You would
anything
think that
remotely
they would be
interesting, let
rivals,
alone
but
fascinating.
it's
What was
not
I talking
actually
about
that.
again? Oh yeah,
It's the news
Minecraft on the
media
other
that
hand
makes
is
them.
endlessly fascinating because for a
It's
game
not
that's
media,
now
the way we
10
speak
years
it.
old, happy anniversary by the way, its lore still hasn't been cracked. Oh sure, there's plenty of speculation and lots of really good ideas, but to my knowledge, no one has truly been able to piece together a final, all-encompassing, all mysteries of this world
Enderman
tied
actually
together
looks
lore
good, even in
solved.
games.
And so today I
Are there lores around
plan
it?
on doing
Or if it
that.
was just
Not
like
even gonna pretend. I'm
wild
starting to
ideas
learn that
that
people
Notch
take
had
it
and just, like,
really
you know,
seriously when I
implement
say
into the
stuff
game.
like,
Yeah, of course
today
we take
we're
it seriously,
solving
because
this.
that's
So
what you're known for.
instead,
Like,
say this
okay,
quite
you're known
honestly
for,
to you.
like,
I'm gonna do my best
cracking,
to start us on a
codes
journey to solve
and,
this.
like,
I want to start a
plots and
conversation
whatnot.
with all of you where we can pool our knowledge and figure this out
Yeah, see,
together.
it was
I want to
originally
put together
as a
my
joke.
thoughts
I don't
on
think there
pieces of
was
evidence
lore
that stood out
around
as
the
particularly
You know, we
interesting.
created
Propose to you what I interpret
Yeah,
as
like,
meaning and then
videos.
leave further
Zombies.
discussion
And
in
zombies are
our
actually
in our
collective
videos.
communal hands. It's a theory. It's always a
like art.
theory. And like any theory, it's
I
meant to be
think this
discussed,
is something like
analyzed,
that. He
criticized,
loves to add
added to,
masala in his
and because it's a
videos.
theory about video games,
Takes
it's meant
facts
most importantly of all to be fun. And if along the way we solve some
With salt,
deep-seated lore mysteries,
with black
great,
pepper.
more power to us. These games at the end of the day are puzzles to solve. And so I'm gonna do my best to lead that
Batman's
charge in
all
solving
powerful.
those puzzles. But I want you to be there with me every step of the way. And so our first step when it comes to solving Minecraft is tackling the Enderman. Originally programmed into the game as a joking reference to Slenderman, these tall, dark, and handsome creatures, well,
freaking
just
weird.
tall and dark, I guess, have become the cornerstone upon which all other
Actually, yesterday
lore
I
in
played
this game is
Minecraft and
built.
Enderman.
Solving what the Endermen are is essential if we have any hope of truly coming to the definitive solution as to the hidden backstory of this game. And after exploring the design of survival mode, the gameplay decisions, even ancillary canonical
the
content in
Ender Eye.
books like the Ma Bestiary, surprise, surprise, I have myself a theory as to what they actually are. Admittedly, it's not a new theory, but what it lacks for in
I think they're
originality,
just
it more
added
than
in
makes up
just
for
for
in
the
evidence
sake of
and
it.
observation. It is my proposal to you today that the Endermen aren't aliens, they're not ghosts. I almost thought that they were insects, but that one didn't pan out. No, what they are is human. They're brilliant humans. Humans who are in trouble, a literal fight for their lives and needed an escape, but in the process, they suffered horrific. What do we know about reducing them to the moaning shadows of a fallen civilization that they are now? Meaning that they're not going to true spirit of Minecraft. Let's start building ourselves a theory, shall we? What do we know about these creatures? Well, first, we know that they're one of the game's neutral mobs, meaning that they're not going to attack you unless they're actively provoked. This is already interesting because it means that in many ways they come in peace. I mean, look at the list of mobs and all of their behavior patterns.
Yeah,
Anything
zombie
else
pigmen's
that's
weird.
nice to you is either an animal,
Very
a villager,
weird.
or a zombie pigman, which is
bizarre.
weird and honestly merits an episode of its own for another day. Everything, and I mean everything else is hostile, except for the Enderman. So already there's a bit of an odd, tenuously peaceful relationship between us and the Enderman, but it gets even weirder when you consider that they're the only other creatures other than Steve or Alex able to move blocks. Sure, they're kind of picky about what blocks they pick up, but carrying blocks is an ability
that's
only
some good
shared
story.
between
Okay,
our
I'll
character
say
and the
that, that's
Enderman.
good.
As the Ma Bestiary says,
always
quote,
like,
they
why
will
do
not
they
just
pick
pick
the
up
blocks?
any block, but will choose only
Specific one.
clay, dirt and sand,
sand,
flowers and
flower.
other plants, and rather oddly TNT. Some claim the Enderman is indulging in a form of play or attempting to communicate.
Attempting to
Speaking of
communicate.
communication,
See
we
how deep
also
go in
know
that
that
game?
they can talk,
They
or
make it-
at least
they make it
had
sound
the
like,
ability
oh,
to talk.
right.
Listen to some of the sound clips from when Endermen are idling near you.
That could be that, what's it called?
That's weird.
Frig, I wish I was
There's
smart. I
clearly
wish I
a
was
language
smarter.
here.
Yeah,
A real
I
language
also
that
thought
we
about that.
as humans can
You know, if
understand.
you hear something like that,
Again, you should be hearing,
suggests
hey,
what the word is, that's what you'll hear. There's not
Hello.
a second scientific name for it.
Hello.
this
Wow.
next one is really clear. What's up?
I hear what's up.
And
Is that
look
made up?
for the eye.
It does sound pretty similar, but
Which
maybe
presumably
again,
is
maybe it's
referencing
just,
Eyes
Never
of
heard
Ender, the items that allow you to find
Because
strongholds
it's
where
not
they're
sure
used to
about that.
activate a
Never heard
portal
such
to
things.
the
Just,
end,
you know,
home of the
my
Enderman and the
God.
game's final boss, the Ender Dragon. So we
Yeah.
have ourselves
Right now,
neutral
I'm
creatures who are
actually
able to
doing like a
move
Let's Play
blocks
kind
just
of
like us
Minecraft.
and
I
have
think
language
Michael will be
abilities
defined.
far beyond what we hear
something
elsewhere in the
different,
game
because
from
I never
characters like
actually
villagers.
partially
It's
heard
certainly
yet.
a lot of odd similarities to be sure, but far from airtight evidence that the Endermen are somehow related to men. But now let's take a minute to
Endermen.
actually
Ghosts,
look at
obviously.
their home, the end. The end is a
home?
weird final dimension for Minecraft. It honestly feels to me
Oh, is that
like
where they live?
the game started
The
to
end
run
level
out
with
of
the
money.
dragon? How do they live?
They never run out of money. With the whole thing just being a bunch of endstone and purple blocks, ugly purples and yellows everywhere, huge chunks of landscape missing, and giant
the
cities that you
end
can visit far off in the distance, all of which are eerily empty. This is
that
the
what
home
their
of the
houses
Enderman,
look
sure.
like? I
Even the
didn't
Mob
know that.
Bestiary says it. But look
Is this like a
closer
new
and you
thing, or
see
has
that
that
while
been
the
in there
Endermen
for
may
years?
call this
Did
dimension
someone actually
home, and they
explore?
certainly wander around in the empty open landscapes, these giant looming Thanos purple buildings aren't for them. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look inside the end cities. There's tons of great loot hidden all over the place. Inside the chests, you can find everything from enchanted swords to saddles and armor for your horse. The Minecraft
nice.
Gamepedia breaks down everything that we can find here, but something's wrong with that list. None of these items are actually useful to the Endermen. They don't wear armor, they don't
Right.
attack with
That's
swords, and they
true.
certainly don't ride animals.
True.
Heck, there are no animals in the end to ride. Even the
Yeah.
fact that the items are
Are you
kept in
suggesting
chests
that
should be a huge
at one
red flag
point
here.
they were
Remember,
human and then
Endermen
they
are
could
only
use all
picking up
these
certain
things
blocks,
and they
and
turned,
none
so
of
now
those
they can't use
blocks
them?
entail
Is that what you're
chests. They
suggesting?
can't use these things or the thing that stores those things. All of this points to the idea that the End's cities weren't built by the Endermen. They were built by and for someone else. Some other ancient people who managed to get to the end. But who? When you start up a new survival mode game, you enter a blank world. Immediately you notice that you're the
Such
only
a
one of your
game?
kind. Oh, sure. As you adventure, you'll come across NPCs like the villagers, but they're not like
They
you.
don't look
They
like
don't
you, I
look
guess.
like you. They can't
do look
build
different.
like you.
I
You
agree.
and the villagers are fundamentally different. It's almost as if
And
you're
even
a
though there's
different
villagers in the
species.
game.
This fact
Exactly.
is even supported by
Exactly.
zombie attacks. When
But
bit,
the
a
zombie
villager
looks
doesn't
the
transform
same,
into a
though.
normal zombie. It turns specifically into a zombie villager. Regular zombies and zombie villagers are different. In fact, the only
boy.
times that you ever
I've
really
seen
see anything that looks even remotely like you, it's always in the form of undead enemies.
True.
Zombies,
Minecraft
drowned,
really does
husks.
good
It implies
that.
that
Husks,
once
I
upon
hate
a
them.
time
They're
there
all
were
over
other
Minecraft,
humans here,
everywhere.
but they all died
And they
en
don't-
masse. It's a strange detail that you
They
probably
don't die
noticed, but
in
you
the
shrug it off and
daylight
you continue on your
husks, they don't
journey.
burn.
Then you start discovering pre-existing structures, mine shafts, temples in the desert,
Oh my
monuments
goodness.
underwater, all abandoned, all of them lost to time. Again, you're the only person who can build things in this world, and you certainly didn't build any of these things, so where did they come from? Making things even more suspicious is the fact that ruins like desert temples are protected by
villagers
cleverly
can't
designed
build.
booby traps, elaborate fake floors complete with pressure plates and grids of TNT. It all points to one thing:
So
an
then that makes you
advanced
question, how did
society of
they-
builders
So
other-
once
other-
lived in the overworld.
players
How did
Since
they go
disappeared.
away?
So that begs
Because
the
if
question,
you
where did they
can
go?
survive,
Maybe
one
they all
person can
died, which in
survive.
turn led to the
How come
armies of
so
the
many other
undead mobs
people,
that we
like,
have
there
to
were a
guard
lot
against
others
every
before,
night.
how
And while I
come
certainly
they
think that that's
survived?
part of it,
Came to
it's not the
zombies.
whole
Unless you have
story.
any
Because
buildings.
we know that they
Wow.
went
Doesn't make
somewhere,
sense.
teleported somewhere. And while they could have gone any number of places,
Oh
we
my
know
God.
for a fact that one of the places they ended up was the end. How can we be so sure?
Holy moly,
Strongholds.
this
Strongholds are the hidden
game is
ancient ruins that
so
contain
good.
massive portals to the end. Whatever this ancient society
used to
was,
think
they
that
were
it was a
so
simple
advanced that they
multiplayer.
could figure out how to build these things, which in turn makes them more advanced than even you, the player. In survival mode, you can't craft the end frames necessary to construct this thing. In order to
I
travel to
always
the
thought
end,
that
you
you
must
could.
find these portals
But I- you know,
hidden
there's a lot of
within the
variety in
stronghold.
Minecraft.
And
Plus, you
let's
need
stop
a lot
there
of
for a
years
minute.
and years
I mean,
and
have you ever
years ago.
thought to question that name,
Ender
Stronghold? It's a
I always
pretty
thought that you
odd
could
choice.
build, like, a portal to
Personally,
get
I
to
would
the
think it
end.
to be like the portal room, or the gateway room, or the altar, or something, anything like that.
Something
But
room.
instead, the designers of Minecraft named it Strongholds, a term that refers to a highly secure structure built for defending against attacks. And there's that idea
that's
again.
cool.
An ancient civilization of advanced builders that was quickly dying. A group of builders, just like our player, who were being threatened in the overworld and needed an escape. And what they created was a portal to another dimension, the end, where, wouldn't you know it, they built cities to store the items and armor from their previous world. But there was one thing that they didn't expect,
that's
that
the
this would be a one-way trip,
They
that
all
the
went
portal
inside
would
the portal
close
and
up
they just
behind
built
them,
this
leaving
and
them
all that
stranded in a strange and barren wasteland. Sure, they were safe from whatever was killing them in the overworld, but now they were trapped in a wasteland. A wasteland guarded by an unstoppable dragon, and they came unprepared. Based on what we see in the
that's the
chests, they
worst,
came
bro.
in with swords and
How could you
armor
possibly
and
build a building
horses.
to such
Effective weapons to be sure, but not against an
creature, bro?
otherworldly foe. A giant
through
foe that
generated
flies
crystal.
around and attacks with towering beacons that restore its health. They couldn't defeat this thing, hence why it's still living when we arrive. And as we know from the game, the only way out of the end is through defeating
I actually
the
need to
Ender
know how to
Dragon.
deal with
And since they couldn't,
Congrats.
they were stuck,
Congrats,
trapped
Minecraft, you
there
did it.
for generations. They learn to live in harmony with the dragon. They make a new life with whatever limited resources they have there, building homes using the strange end stones and purple blocks. They run out of food and soon have nothing to eat, so they turn to the strange chorus fruits found there. Chorus fruits, which, funny enough, have teleportation properties.
So they just become
And over
Enderman,
time,
but
so
with
they
the
eat them and
fruits.
then-
they adapt to their new surroundings.
we
Oh, sure,
go.
they
That's
retain
the
some human
answer,
features.
alright.
According to the diagrams in the mob bestiary, their brains
Alright.
are very human-like, and they have the flat
Yeah.
faces and wide eyes
Brain
indicative of
cannot be
humans. They
changed.
still do vaguely look like our player character, but they evolve to grow taller, which makes picking the tall stalks of chorus fruit easier.
But can't we
Similar
get
to how
chorus fruit
giraffes' necks
ourselves?
got longer to more
That's the
easily
question.
reach higher up leaves. The fruit's teleportation abilities starts
I
to
know
rub
about
off
any of
on
these
them. So instead of
fruit
having
things
to
or
rely on
anything like
ender
that,
pearls
in
to
the
teleport
end,
around, they
whatever.
instead naturally gain the ability from their diet.
it.
Over
Right,
time,
I
they
see how it
slowly
is.
forget their ability to build. I mean, why build when there's no escape? When there's not even many resources with which to craft? But they still retain the ability to pick up blocks. Though their
love
skill for
blocks.
speech gets
So
forgotten, they
nice.
do retain a rudimentary language, still speaking
makes a
in
lot
those
of sense.
distorted words. This once great builder society slowly, generation after generation, transforms into the Enderman. Even some of their
Now I see
memories
how it
may
is.
still remain.
It actually
One
makes
odd
sense
detail of the Enderman is
I
that
think
wearing a
that's actually
pumpkin on
really
your head
correct
prevents
here.
them
Oh,
from
this is-
becoming
this
aggressive.
makes a lot of
Maybe
sense.
it reminds
I was not
them
aware
of
of
somewhere
the
deep
pumpkin
down of
Enderman.
a simpler
Pumpkin
world
Enderman
of
doesn't
the friendly
attack you.
golems that they would
So
construct
actually,
back
it
on the
does make
overworld.
sense.
Regardless, the civilization is stuck there.
didn't know
Oh sure,
that.
some are able to teleport out into the overworld or into the nether, but most
Pumpkin
are
just had
forced to
pumpkin head?
live there under the
see.
rule of the dragon.
Well, I'm
And
getting
we know this
So
isn't by
some
choice
did
because when
teleport
you
back,
finally
but
arrive in the end,
since
when
their
you
bodies had
finally
changed,
defeat their oppressor,
their
the
mind was
achievement
back.
we receive is free the end. The Endermen at this point are so far gone from the people they once
Endermans.
were that they're no longer able to appreciate what's
Friendly
happened.
man.
But in
I see.
defeating the
Spoilers,
dragon,
so I've
you
never
as the
beaten
player have brought closure to this oppressed civilization, one that was forced to flee to a new dimension in order to survive, only to wind up trapped yet again. And that, my friends,
Is
is
the
the
lore of
story of Minecraft. You're a builder,
Alright.
and you follow in the path of the great builders who came before you, discovering their work,
Probably not.
learning
Makes
of
sense.
their enemies, unlocking their technology, and ultimately freeing them from their greatest oppressor. Now, admittedly, there are some difficult things to explain here, like how this ancient
Like, how did you
civilization
show up?
got access to the Ender pearls necessary to craft the Eyes of Ender required to build a portal to the end if they themselves become the Endermen. It would
Yeah, that's
require
kinda like
some
a
sort of
catch-22,
time loop,
isn't it?
which honestly there isn't a whole lot of evidence for. Instead, my thought here is that the Ender pearls are items that they learn to create before
One question.
becoming Endermen, before going to the end. I mean,
How
think
did
about
they
this. We
exit
know
the
that this
portal?
ancient civilization was able to access
While
the
being
nether.
Endermans
End
in
rods
there.
and
How do we see
Eyes of
them in the real
Ender
world?
both require blaze-related materials to craft. So this civilization had definitely visited that dimension, and thus knew how to access the powers of teleportation. So maybe they learned how to harness that in a smaller, portable form, i.e. the Ender Pearl, before ever making it to the end? I'm not 100% sure. It's honestly just speculation to try and solve for this theory's biggest problem. Anyway, I want to
Actually,
know,
hyped to
what
go
do
to
you
that.
think? Did you like it? Did you not? Let's build it out from there. Why do they hate Endermites? Where'd the villagers come from? And seriously, what is the deal with the zombie pigman civilization?
And they don't
Like I
attack us
said,
as well.
the Endermen are just the start to the puzzle that is Minecraft, but there are still plenty more here for us to discover. So until then, remember, that's
more dudes.
just a theory. A game theory.
Anyways, I hope you guys like this